Right. TAC Talk 15.
15.
Yeah, we're flying after a 6-month break.
Yep. Back on it.
So, last weekend, or it kind of was in the week of it, Wodapalooza happened.
Yes.
Which is a CrossFit event in Miami.
Yeah, it's one of the more popular ones. I think it's quite up there with the games, really.
I mean, in terms of payout, it's definitely up there. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably been around the best part of 8 years now. It's a big event.
It's a 10-year celebration.
Oh, is it 10 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I think, obviously, it hasn't happened in the last couple of years.
Yeah, because of
COVID and stuff. But I think it was the 10-year.
Yeah. But it's growing massively. It just looks like a massive party. Obviously, like athletes from all over the world going. I've some surprises there. I thought Emma McQuaid winning it on the women's side.
Emma McQuaid winning it. I think there was an Australian athlete, Ellie Turner, who looked quite, I don't want to say comfortably in the lead, but like...
Is she quite young? Was she a young girl?
Yeah, I think she's 23, 24.
Yeah.
And she's got some big shoes to fill. She's carrying that flag, the Aussie flag. Obviously still got people like Cara and Tia there, but she's like looks like she's the next one.
Okay, that's interesting.
Type thing, But yeah, she looked like she was like, she'd have to have a mare to lose it, but then that happened.
So was she leading going into the final day?
Into the final day, and then there was an elimination style event. They had to change it because there were some weather issues, I believe, but it was like a sandbag carry into burpees over a line, into a handstand walk, in that kind of format. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, she ended up, I think she finished 30th or something like that.
That's almost last place then.
Yeah, so like that hurt her.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure what the last event was, but it was like 55 toes to bar into 55 devil's press.
Okay.
It's like a sprint.
Just straight for time.
Just straight for time. Like it was a good one to watch. So I think Bethany Shadburn
won that.
I think she won that, and then Lucy Campbell, who's a UK athlete, who I think really surprised a lot of people with her performance, finished like a second behind her, like a second behind her. And I'm not sure who came third, fourth, but so
did that Ellie Turner end up coming sixth?
I think she finished sixth or something like that.
But that's a learning curve, isn't it?
Exactly.
That's obviously exposed her game a little bit.
But from the girls' side, really entertaining. I feel
it was good to see so many. I messaged you like on Saturday night saying like we've got quite a good showing from the UK side of things with the girls. Like, did you pay much attention to that? So obviously, we just mentioned Lucy Campbell. She ended up coming fourth.
She ended up coming fourth. So
your other half is Manager.
Yeah. So she, I believe. She has like a background in open water swimming.
All right, okay.
So there was an event which was like a row, swim, run.
She won that one.
And she won that one. I think she had her eyes on doing well in that. I think she wanted to win that. She would have wanted to win that one just because of the open water element of it. So yeah, she came first in that. But then I think like more of the second half of the competition, she was just consistent. She didn't have a bad finish. She didn't necessarily win the events, but she
was finishing relatively well.
Top 4, top 5 kind of finishes, which is basically what it's about, isn't it? It's about being consistent. So she really, really did well. Obviously, Emma McQuaid's been around for a bit.
She obviously won that. We haven't mentioned that. But
and
I feel like she's quietly every year doing a little bit better and like finishing higher at the games. And I think she's only been making the games for the last 3 or 4 years or something like that.
I mean, pass. I know the name, but I don't know how long she's been around for.
It's not like she hasn't been like a games athlete for like 10 years kind of thing, but she's always been on the cusp, and she's been getting a little bit better every year. And like for her to win Wodapalooza is quite a big statement, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And like as I mentioned before, like I feel like the women's side, I feel like the talent pool is just a little bit deeper than the men's. Like it's more entertaining to watch.
Do you think that's warped a little bit though because we've lost Fraser? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, possibly.
Because Fraser was so impressive. Like he was so impressive as an athlete that like everyone chasing him, it made them look less impressive, but they are still super impressive. I think
it's true.
But I mean, like the female side has still got Tia.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. As long as Tia's around, in my opinion, she'll stay at the top. But once she goes, there just seems to be a few athletes who are still quite young, 23, 24. Obviously, we've got the likes of Emma Carey and Mal O'Brien, still teenagers. But you've got you know, some 23, 24, 25-year-olds who look like they could make some statements at the games this year if they make it, if they qualify. That is, you know.
That'd be interesting. That definitely would be interesting. I feel like you're seeing a bit of a. I felt like you've seen it with the men a couple of years ago with the likes of kind of Khalifa, Bridges, you know, various others kind of, I wouldn't say fizzle out, but you know, no longer being in contention. I know obviously Khalifa had other issues, but I suppose Bridges is a good example of that. I think you're going to start seeing that with the girls soon. I feel the likes of Katrin, Annie, and I know Annie performed really well last year, but I think they're going to start fizzling out, and you're going to have this new breed of athletes, girls who are well young, like that, you know, like you say, between 18 and 23 years old, kind of.
Well, yeah, we've spoken before. Like we're starting to see with like the Justin Medeiros, the Mal O'Briens, the Emma Careys, who have been doing CrossFit from a young age, coming through, and now, you know, doing well at the Open, making the games. I mean, we're already going to see a continuation of that, I feel, for the years to come. I mean, obviously on our side of the pond, we want to start seeing that from a UK perspective, which I think the UK is still a little bit behind.
I think it always will be. I mean, the talent pool's not obviously there as much, in a sense that, like, I feel like our youth level sport and our school sport is just not to the level of the Americans. So, like, you know, they're drawing athletes from colleges and high school who are playing a high level sport. They've got great coaching from an athletics point of view,
and even just like collegiate level.
Exactly,
you know, like,
and it's such another level. But I thought one thing the Wodapalooza did show is, like, it's a big event. It was probably arguably second, third biggest event on the CrossFit calendar, along with Dubai. But there was about 6 individual UK athletes there. If you obviously with Reggie, and I think
Reggie,
it was like 5
Taylor
girls.
Howe, obviously Lucy Campbell, Emma McQuaid. Who else? I mean, who else was there? There were a couple of others. There was a lot in the teams. JST. I think JST had a team. They had quite a strong showing there for them.
You had, I think they come under Team Wit, but it was like Grace and like Oakley Woodhouse. I can't remember. Jamie Garrett. Team of 3 girls, and then Harrison was in a team.
For motion CrossFit.
So it is good to see, like, whether it's individually or a team, so many UK athletes going over to compete.
Absolutely.
But did you pay much attention to the men's side? Obviously, Pat Vellner won.
He
wasn't leading the whole time.
He wasn't. No, I don't think he was leading in the beginning. But to be honest, like in the men's field, I'm not too familiar with who's around now. You know, like
you got some like kind of.
I mean, you've got some
people like Cole Sager.
Who's been around for a minute. God, I don't even know who came second. Let me have a look.
Because I mean, I feel like Pat Vellner's going to want to make a bit of a statement this year. Obviously, he came second last year at the games behind Justin Medeiros. And like, I don't know whether part of him feels like he should have won that because it was close. I think that went into the last workout.
Okay, so we had Alexandra Caron. I'm not sure who that is. He's a kid. Oh, Canadian. That was right. Yeah, there was. I think the top 3 were all Canadian, which is obviously good for Canada. You know? Cole Sager came 4th. We've had Dallin Pepper.
So he's been talked about quite a lot. He just missed out on the game spot.
Last year. He's still quite young. I think he's only like 19 or something like that. Then we had the Panchik brothers that made up 7th, 8th and 9th. So Spencer Panchik 7th, Saxon Panchik 8th, Scott Panchik 9th, which I think is quite cool.
That's quite
cool. A guy called Taylor Self. Jason Hopper, who also burst onto the scene last year at one of the semi-finals.
It was the MAC, wasn't it? I think it was the MAC.
And then Colton Mertens, I've heard of him. I've heard his name.
So he was at the games last year.
Tyler Christoffel, I'm not sure who that is.
Well, there's clearly, obviously, a lot of new athletes. I mean, it's interesting because, like, Jason Hopper finishing 10th there. Like, before the games last year, we were like, this guy's going to win. But like, he smashed his regional or his semi-final.
He made quite a statement.
There, and he made a big statement. The games, it looked like it just shocked him a bit. It'll be interesting to see how he progresses.
My opinion was maybe he peaked at the MAC.
It kind of seems like that, doesn't it?
Then he obviously you go into the game and it's unknown, and he just got exposed a little bit. But he started working with Matt Fraser now. I think he's one of a couple of athletes that are now working with Fraser quite closely. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops.
Yeah.
Because we never know what the aim was necessarily this competition.
And it's very early in the season. I mean, we haven't even had the Open yet. Like it's a bit of a different ball game.
It could literally just be like just see how we do. You know, like see where we're at, and it's game. I mean, it's game day that matters, isn't it? So
it will be interesting to see how the season pans out, because it's nice to see. You know, obviously last week we spoke about, you know, the change in leadership from a games point of view with Castro getting fired. You know, I feel like we're seeing a shift in athletes as well. You know, naturally, athletes get older, they become not as good, and we're starting to see a lot of younger guys coming through and setting a new standard. But you know, like I say, there's quite a lot of names that you're reading and you're like, I haven't really heard of them. I mean, a lot of that's down to, I think, with the pandemic and stuff, and you know, the Open not really happening in the same way, and the competitive side of things not going down the same way. So you don't see as many athletes, and it's not advertised as much, I suppose. And we'll obviously start seeing a lot more of that.
For sure.
But I think we're going to be in for an interesting year. I mean, obviously it's still early in the season, we've still got the Open to come, but I mean, I can't see past tier on the girls' side.
No.
But I feel like on the men's side, it's going to be more competitive, because I think Medeiros is really good, but he wasn't like miles ahead. Well, like when Fraser would win, like he'd be miles ahead.
Well, yeah, when Fraser could had it wrapped, apart from that year with Noah Olsen, like he came second, but in prior years he'd had it wrapped up pretty much already before the last day.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting. I mean, like obviously Medeiros will be coming to make a statement. Are we going to see another era of dominance or not? You know, like
it's funny because obviously when Fronen stopped, everyone was like, you know, that'll never happen again. The guy winning 4 on a bounce, especially in the type of sport that CrossFit is, where it's, you know, it's so diverse in terms of what we're asking athletes to do.
I think
and then obviously Fraser went and did that, and then Tia's done it on the ladies' side, because the ladies' side didn't really have that. I know you had a couple of multiple winners with Annie and Katrin just winning it twice, but beyond that, you had a far more diverse field with like Sam Briggs winning it, Camille winning it, Katrin winning it twice, obviously Annie before that winning it twice.
Yeah.
There was a lot more to that, whereas the lads was like, Graham Homburg, and then you had Froden 4 times, Ben Smith once, but then it was like Fraser 5 times. And like, you know, it was a very, it's a very like singular dominated thing with one guy doing that. I'm not sure that'll happen again.
I mean, like, whether it will happen anytime soon, I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, you know, we could see it again. We could see it in 10 years. You know.
Yeah. I mean, does Medeiros have that in him? Do you think?
I mean, I'd like to think so. Like, you know, I wouldn't write him off.
Yeah. I mean, he to me seems like a guy who just doesn't really have any holes in his game, but he doesn't necessarily excel at anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like Fraser didn't have any holes in his game. I mean, he did obviously at the start, but he got to the point where he didn't have any holes in his game. But then he would excel at stuff. You know, where he'd just like do a WOD and he'd just leave everyone in the dust kind of thing. But like, because you know, one athlete who's coming back, who like, it'll be interesting to see how he does, and it's kind of going to lead me on to my next subject, is Ricky Gerrard.
Okay, yeah.
So he competed in Dubai. He podiumed, didn't he?
I think he finished third.
He finished third. He was meant to compete at Wodapalooza. He got what? Food
poisoning. Like maybe a couple of days or a day before, and then he did put a post out and just said like he spoke to his team and they said it'd be best that he just didn't compete.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Ricky Gerrard come third at the CrossFit Games in 2017. And then about a month or so after, it found out that he got he tested positive for a performance enhancing drug called a SARM. It wasn't a steroid, it was called a SARM.
Yeah, so a selective androgen receptor modulator, something like that.
I don't know I don't know exactly what it does, but he was taking a supplement which had it in it. Obviously denied it. Because he denied it, he got a 4-year ban instead of. I think if you owned up to it, you would have had a 2-year ban. I think.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah.
I think that's the rules in CrossFit. So he had a 4-year ban. His ban is now over, so he started competing again. The community, I think, is very split on this. With him competing again, you know, some people, you know, are like he should never compete again. Other people are like, you know, he served his time, so to speak. And it kind of brings me on to one. How do you think he'll do? And then we'll talk about the kind of morality of what he did after. So in terms of like performance, because at the game, when I know he was obviously on something, but in 2017 it was like, oh my god, this kid's pretty special. Like especially at those kind of endurance-y events, like he absolutely smashed it.
I mean, obviously, yeah, he got caught taking something, but I wouldn't necessarily take that away from him. He's obviously still an incredibly fit guy. I think that he has I don't know if he has a chance to win, but he has a chance to do well. You know, like I guess we just got to get the popcorn out and see. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's. I think 4 years out of competition will affect him competing. Like he's like, because it's like any sport. Like he obviously was still doing the training and the sport in the meantime, but 4 years out of like doing any competition, you're going to be a little bit rusty there. So it'll be very interesting to see how he does. And like, the field's only got deeper in that time. Every year the CrossFit Games is getting just to a higher level. Not so much the guy at the top's getting to a higher level, even though that has happened, but the guy at the bottom is just even better. Everyone is, as a unit, is moving forward and getting a little bit better.
Definitely.
So it kind of brings me on to the sorry, before I get on to that, like I think he'll do okay, but I don't think we're going to see anything like incredible out of him. I can't see him podium in. I think the field's just
it's going to be deep. I mean, like obviously Dubai, he finished third, but it wasn't the most stacked male field that we've ever seen at the Dubai. In years past, you've had some bigger names going, but again, that's not, you can only compete against who you compete against. So I won't take that away from him, but if he manages to qualify for the games, obviously that will be the bigger test. Let's see how you do against the best of the best. So we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So obviously related to that issue, I wanted to talk about performance enhancing drugs, and especially in CrossFit, because of what happened to him. And and recently and before, you see people banned and stuff and get found out, but he was the first podium athlete to ever get caught out. He's the highest placing games finisher to ever get found out. What do you think in terms of like so he was given a 4-year ban, he's now competing again. What are your thoughts on that? Him being allowed to compete, like
I mean, I think he served his time, he was given his ban, and if he should have the right to compete again, if he wants to. He's obviously exercised his right. So I mean, like I think that not just him, even future athletes that get popped. If you're given a ban and you serve that ban, then you should be allowed to come back again.
Because it's an interesting one, because like you've got to have a rule somewhere in terms of like there has to be a set time for banning someone, and in terms of like time, like if they turn around and say an 8-year ban, that might as well be a lifetime ban in terms of what you'll lose in terms of athletic development, just the age gain. Like if you say you got popped at 21 and then you come back at 30, you might not be the same athlete. So it's about getting that balance right. So I think a 4-year ban's fair. I think sometimes, and like I've been a little bit guilty of this, is that like people often treat people who have been banned in CrossFit or any sport worse than what they would treat like a criminal who's assaulted someone, or do you know what I mean? Like in terms of the reaction they get on social media and stuff like that. So a guy, he cheats, right? He does something wrong. Okay, he didn't quite own up to it, and initially, I know he has now, but like he's getting destroyed, absolutely destroyed, and whether he deserves that or not, it's kind of a different conversation. When he comes back, and especially when Castro was promoting him coming back, it divided opinion. People were still destroying him, essentially.
I think, because
but do we place too much kind of emphasis on just like moral decency in sport?
I think the CrossFit community especially is quite guilty of taking the moral high ground and being quite self-righteous at times. Thinking that CrossFit is like the purest sport. Like we don't do such things, and if someone is caught, then we throw the book at them, kind of thing. And CrossFit's no different to any sport. And if the punishment was you don't get to compete again, then so be it. But like the punishment's a 4-year ban. So you know.
You got to serve that punishment.
You serve that punishment. You know, and like just let's bring him back and see what he can do. You know?
Because I do think you're right, and I think CrossFit as a community can be guilty of this at times. It's like, this is not the worst thing anyone can do in life. Do you know what I mean? There's plenty of worse things, whether that's a crime or whatever, that's worse than what he did. But the way it's portrayed, you'd think it's the worst thing in the world. And I think sometimes people need to be like, all right, he didn't kill anyone, he didn't, you know, well, maybe you could argue he did steal something off that belt. But like, you know, he did something that was wrong. It was wrong in the rules. It's wrong in a sporting sense, generally. But you know, it's how wrong is it? That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Like, I think it's an interesting conversation because, like, you know, I think it's wrong. I've been very critical of, you know, people who've done it before in other sports. Like, it's always kind of wound me up, cheating. But like, it's that whole kind of thing. Are we a bit too like caught up in it? Like,
I mean, like, obviously at the time it was like, whoa, like sending shockwaves because like no one's ever been
done.
No one whose podiums had ever been.
Do you think a lot of it had more to do with the fact that, not so much that he cheated, even though that's a big part in it, but the fact that he kind of tarnished the sport a little bit? Because it hadn't really been seen at that level. And I know people were getting popped, but it wasn't often games athletes were getting popped. But when he got popped, it was like, all right, well, if the third place guy is doing something, then, you know, the guy who finished first and the guy who finished second must have been doing something. And that argument obviously always comes in. Do you think that hasn't helped in terms of his reputation and like the damages he suffered from that kind of thing?
I mean, I think that's the scar that he's going to have to bear. I think going forward, there's always going to be the element of, there's always going to be someone. You know, don't get me wrong. You know, my opinion is just let him compete. If he gets tested and tests negative, then he should be able to compete. But because of his reputation, he's always going to carry that with him. But that's, you know, I think he's got big enough shoulders to. I think he understands that. So, you know,
he seems like the kind of guy who likes to be the villain as well. Like, I remember listening to an interview with him he did recently. It was a podcast with Chasing Room. And you know, Chasing Room was like, you know, how will you be if you get booed and stuff? And he's just like, bring it on. Like, he wants to be that guy who will drive him, which is great for sport. Like, you know what I mean? Especially individual sport. Like, you see it a lot in like boxing and UFC. Like, characters kind of, you know, they make the sport a little bit better.
Being a heel.
A heel basically. You know, and you got like Medeiros is the baby face kind of thing. Like, it's like wrestling. But I'm really intrigued. But I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have because, like, I think sometimes as a society we're very, very like critical, and you know, it's right that we're critical of people who cheat. But like sometimes I'm like, now like, these guys are getting more stick than people who have done some serious damage to people. Do you know what I mean? You know, like say like criminals or, you know, drug dealers, like whatever. Like, you know, I'm sure there's guys and girls in the CrossFit community who have done some seriously wrong things, but they didn't take drugs, so that, you know, they're not getting knocked at the same level. So I just thought it was an interesting conversation to have. I mean, I'm quite excited to see where it goes with him. I mean, the spotlight's going to be on him. It'll be very interesting if he won. Say if he won the games. How the reaction in the community and outside the CrossFit community would be to a guy who's won, who
had been previously done
for it.
That's an interesting narrative.
And like, you know, there's going to be a lot of people in the community who are like, you know, fair play, he won, but there's always going to be like a bit of an asterisk next to that saying this guy once cheated.
Even if he podiums again,
exactly.
You know, like, not even winning.
And even amongst some of the athletes, it'll be a bit like,
I mean, like, we just have to wait and see what happens. But I there's a part of me that does want him to do well. You know, I do want him to do well. Just,
I believe in redemption. Redemption,
exactly.
It's an important thing. Like, you know, you should obviously, providing the crimes are too severe, but second chances are important in life. I mean, this guy, he he made a mistake when he was 21. I think he was 21. He was young. Yeah, he was 21 or 20. And like, you know, you can't be defined by like one mistake for your whole life. That can't tarnish you. It's not fair. Equally, just like you can't be defined by your successes. Like you know what I mean. You should always be kind of like about what you're doing now, in the here and now, not something you've done in the past, whether it's good or bad. And like.
That's why it fascinates me, because like it was 4 years ago, and I can understand like the outrage at the time, but you know, 4 years have passed and there's still, you know, sections of the community that are like they want him, you know,
they took it personally.
It didn't do anything to you, you know, like just move on from it. You know?
Well, this is the thing with CrossFit, like we talked about, sometimes they can be a bit like CrossFit as a community, fans especially can be very sensitive about certain issues, and it's because they love CrossFit so much. So they almost took it as a personal insult that he dared to cheat in the sport they love. So like, you know, just some of the comments on Instagram are like,
interesting.
Like, never again. You should never be allowed to compete and stuff like that. But again, like it's interesting. I'm quite excited. I'm excited for the season, to be fair. Like I feel like, you know, last year's games was good. This year's seems like it's going to be better.
Even better.
I mean, obviously we've had the change in ownership, so not ownership, leadership in terms on the game. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Open pans out. I'm quite excited.
It's not far away.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
And like, you know, obviously we're going to do like the Open in the gym, so we'll have like, we're going to sort out maybe like Friday night lights and stuff like that.
Sounds good.
It'll be good to see some of the guys going for it, because I really like the way they split it and had like the Open, the 3-week Open, and then the quarter-final stage, the next 10%.
Yes.
I like that, because it gives everyone something, that extra bit to aim for. Because that 10% is far more achievable than say getting to regionals. So like, you know your average gym member can really try and push and aim for that 10%, and then compete at a next stage. And you know, and you could potentially have more people in your gym do that. So I'm quite excited. To me, it kind of looks like they just combined the regional slash like sanctional kind of concepts together, kind of thing. You know, like, because they were both. Because I think when the sanctionals came along at the time, it was a really, really good idea, and everyone really liked it, but people still kind of missed the regional aspect of it as well, you know. So like now they've just kind of like, right, we put the best of both together, you know, like. So I'm quite excited. I mean, it looks like Sid and like Strength and Depth have been hinting at, like, they've been posting like almost hints that Sid 2022 is going to happen, and like I wonder if that's now going to be a semi-final, and it would be great to have another semi-final in London, like, because that Sid we went to where we watched the guys compete as a team, and like Fraser and Froning was there. Like, how cool was that? That was such a cool competition. It would make sense. The atmosphere was sick, like, you know, just the setup work and like the crowd work kind of thing. So I would love it if we had a sanctional or a semi-final, whatever you want to call it, in London or the UK, and like it'd be good if some of our guys potentially got there as a team, so we've got a team on a tryout for that. It'll be really interesting. Cool, so I'd love that to happen. It would make sense, because I mean, I don't know what other countries in Europe are restriction-wise. Yeah, and it seems like I think the UK we have the least. There was talk of Europe getting a third semi-final and America getting an extra semi-final as well, but it doesn't look like that's happened. So I think we're still going to have 2 semi-finals. Right. But with one being in the UK would be superb. Yeah, man. Sweet, decent. Well, there.